So I was just watching a highlight reel of my GOAT, Bas Ruin, and I thought to myself, this guy was the first complete fighter ever in the history of mixed martial arts. Because, he had top level striking and he had good wrestling too. People forget, man. But Bas Ruin, because back then you had all the pure elements, all the pure martial artists come together. You had the karate, you had the strikers, pure strikers versus pure grapplers. And of course, the pure grapplers won every exchange because when a striker got taken down, they didn't know what the fuck to do. So all the pure strikers basically got pushed out of the sport. And so it took a while before you had any other complete fighters, right? So I'm today going to be making a tier list of the best UFC fighters. And with best, I mean most skilled, most well-rounded, most, Alex Pereira won't be on this list because he's an elite level striker, but not sufficient enough in the grappling to make this list, if that makes sense. And I'm going to make it time relative too, because of course, back in 1990, if you were even a slightly well-rounded, you were, on the top level. So I'm going to make it time relative too. So the first entry is, of course, Bas Ruin, and I'm going to put him at perfection because in his time, he was a striker and he came to Japan and fought in a mixed martial arts promotion which favored wrestling. Not only was it mixed martial arts, but it favored wrestling. He couldn't close his fists. He had to strike with his palm. And what he did, he got submitted a couple times. He was knocking everybody out and he got submitted a couple times. And what he did was he said to himself, instead of quitting, I'm going to learn the grappling. So he watched tape and this and that, and he learned himself, and he taught himself the grappling aspect of the game. And so what he did was he canceled out the majority of the grappling and started striking with all of them. He had good takedown defense, and he submitted a couple wrestlers too, because you had wrestlers and they didn't know what the fuck the submissions were. So he submitted a couple wrestlers too, and he only really lost to grapplers in the beginning, and then he lost to I think it was Ken or Frank Shamrock. I don't remember which one. And then when Bas Ruin learned the grappling, they were terrified of him, and he ran away from Bas for years. So Bas really was the first best fighter, in my opinion. He became a UFC champion. He was king of Pancrase for a while. That was the biggest MMA promotion in Japan back then. And, great fighter. Then the next fighter is Islam Makhachev, and I'm going to put him at perfection because his grappling, we all know this. The grappling of Islam Makhachev is one of the best, if not the best, in the UFC right now. His striking is top level too. He can hang with top level strikers. He has shown to all of us that he is one of the best UFC fighters there is. He's extremely well-rounded. He can, he holds up in every aspect of the game, and we all know this, of course. And he has some good power too. So that being said, next one. So next one, we have Jan Blachowicz, and I'm gonna put him at. This is a hard one. I didn't think of this beforehand when I put him in there. This is a hard one. I'm gonna put him. If you look at the other people on the list, and I'm gonna put him at super skilled. Because, calm down, okay? Because people forget, man, he has great grappling and he's a good striker. I think he's good at grappling and good at striking. He doesn't really have a lot of BJJ, but he's good at striking and good at wrestling, I would say. So he's not elite in either one of them, but he just mixes it up well, and he has great power, great chin, good cardio. So, I can't put him at the top of the list, but I'm going to put him as super skilled because he is good at almost any aspect of the game. So that makes him a real threat. And people forget, man, Jan Blachowicz almost beat Alex Pereira. And in my opinion, he actually beat Alex Pereira. But I'm glad that he was robbed because this is a way better storyline. Imagine if Alex Pereira, just the first light heavyweight fight, he just got split decision, wrestle fucked, and then he never became champion. That would have been horrible. But I'm actually, where the fuck is this guy? I know he's returning to fight Carlos Ulberg, but why is he even fighting Ulberg? Like, why isn't he fighting like some layup, right? Why isn't he just beating the shit out of Rakic and then getting a title shot? Like, I know they don't want him to fight Alex Pereira again because he might win, but I don't get, this guy's like pushing 40 and he's being inactive as fuck. I don't get this guy, but whatever, man. Next fighter is Peter Yan. Now, I'm going to put him at the expert level. You know, this is a hard one because he is one of my favorite fighters, but he did get out wrestled by Merab. But he tore his MCL in that fight. People just disregard that fact. You know, when Shafkat has a fucking injury, they glaze him like, oh, he had a knee injury. Like, he had a bruise on his ankle. And, you know, he's actually the GOAT, guys. He beat Carlston Harris with a bruise on his ankle, guys. He's actually the GOAT. Like, imagine going in there. People glaze him. And then Peter Yan, he had a torn MCL. Like, that's insane. So, of course, he lost that fight. Anyone would lose that fight. And Merab is the best bantamweight there is right now. So, even if it wasn't for the torn MCL and he still would have lost, it's not that big of a deal. He has great striking. Like, he doesn't have a lot of power. That's his problem. He doesn't have an insane amount of power, but his striking is so clean. It's so technical. Then he mixes in the grappling, the wrestling. He is just a great, well-rounded fighter. And so he's at the expert level. Then I'm going to put Bilal Muhammad at the well-rounded tier. Listen, okay, calm down, bedtime. He does not have boxing like Canelo, okay? I'm going to beat him in the striking, the grappling. He's not beating anyone in the striking, okay? He's not a good striker. He is a great wrestler, and, you know, he can do the striking a bit, but only because he mixes in the wrestling. If you put him against a good striker, and I think JDM is winning this because JDM is an actual good striker, and when JDM hits, when JDM lands, it hurts. You know, it's not like Leon. He's well-rounded, don't get me wrong, and he's great. He's a good fighter, but he's not that well-rounded. He's not that complete of a fighter that other people are, and he doesn't have any power. So that also adds in. And, you know, he's in this generation. You really have to be at the top of your game at every aspect in this generation of fighters. So I'm going to put him at well-rounded. Then I'm going to put Kamaru Usman on the list. Kamaru Usman, I'm going to say he's an expert. He's not Yamlo always level, okay? Kamaru Usman is one of the best wrestlers in the UFC, and he has insane striking. Now listen, it might be a bit goofy at times, but he outstruck Masvidal. He, in my opinion, outstruck Leon Edwards in a lot of exchanges. He outstruck Chimaev. He's just a very good fighter. And if we count in his prime was in like a couple of years ago, that generation of fighters, they weren't super complete. So, you know, he was really ahead of his time in many ways. Like, just to have that level of striking, and he kept improving and improving too. It wasn't like he slowed down and he got complacent, but he kept improving on every aspect of his game. And that's, you know, that's great for this list. Then the next entry on the list is Zhang Weili, and I'm going to put her at perfection. Counting in that she's a women's MMA fighter, she's just the best women's MMA fighter we've ever seen. Amanda Nunes ain't got shit on her, okay? Amanda Nunes striking was walk forward and just throw haymakers. We're not counting that, okay? Zhang Weili has great, clean, technical striking, has good power. She KO'd Joanna Jędrzejczyk. She out-wrestled Tatiana Suarez. If she was a man, she would be probably one of the GOATs, okay? Imagine if she was like a lightweight fighter. I think she has a good chance against Islam Makhachev. If they were same weight, same gender, you know, she would have a good chance. So, man, she's really up there. She's you know, she's just so good. And that's crazy because women in MMA are so trash. It's abhorrent. I don't know. I'm not sure why even, because they should just like have the skills, right? Okay, they don't have the strength, they don't have the power. I get that. But the skills, like, It's insane. Anyways, next fighter on the list is Henry Cejudo. I think he's going to put me on the list, guys. I think he's going to put me at perfection, guys. He is one of the best. I'm going to put him at one of the best because he is, he's a great wrestler. Who's going to say he isn't? He's an Olympic medalist. And his striking is pretty good. Now, I wouldn't say his striking is the best. He doesn't have the best chin. He doesn't have the best power. But he still is a good striker. He mixes it in well. Yeah, man. And yeah, I'm just going to put him there. It's a valid place for him to be as, the generation he is in right now, because he chose to retire for some reason. That was the dumbest UFC decision ever. So he chose to fight in this generation, and this generation really is above him in well-roundedness at the top. So, I think this is a fair spot for him to be in. Then we cannot forget Jon Jones. Now, people are going to be mad at where I'm going to put him. I'm going to put him at expert. Okay, calm down, okay? Calm down. Take a breath. Okay, listen. He's a super good grappler, super good wrestler, great BJJ, everything. But this guy, as soon as he has to rely on striking, it doesn't hold up. Reyes pieced him up. Gustafsson pieced him up. There's so many examples of him just being outstruck, especially when he's not fighting middleweights or 40-year-olds. And he's a pillow puncher. Jon Jones considered, he has so many KOs. He doesn't have a single KO. He has TKOs, not KOs, okay? His striking is still top level, but it's not the same level as, like, I think his striking is actually, like, worse than like Oliveira's striking. I think, yeah, that's a valid thing to say. So I'm going to put him at expert and not perfection. But, he's carried by his reach and, his height and the roids. So he's still up there, but he's not the best. Then I'm going to put Tom Aspinall on the list at one of the best because his striking, of course, is insane. It's mainly carried by the power he has and it's just mainly the power. Like, if you see those analyses, it's great how he thinks. Like, his fight IQ is high too, and his wrestling is good, but it's not quite there. It's enough. It's more than enough, but it's not top level wrestling, I would say. It's not Islam Makhachev. Well, no one is, but it's not Peter Yan level of wrestling. His striking is definitely one of the best in the UFC right now. I think he would KO Alex Pereira. Am I crazy? Maybe. But yeah, the wrestling, we haven't seen it enough too, I think, for me to say, like, he's a top level wrestler. So I'm just going to put him at one of the best. Now we have Jose Aldo at expert. And, I would put him at perfection. I love Jose Aldo. But we haven't really seen his grappling. He has great takedown defense. And that's why we haven't seen his grappling a lot, especially recently. So his striking, of course, is one of the best in the game. And his takedown defense is so fucking good. I think he would beat Merab. Right now, I think he would beat Merab. But yeah, we haven't really seen a lot of his grappling recently. Yeah, I think this is where he belongs. And he's old too, so, it's that aspect too. So then we have GSP at perfection, of course, because GSP in his generation especially, you didn't have all these complete fighters, and GSP did everything perfectly. He did the striking, the grappling. He had everything. He had boxing like Canelo, and he wrestled great. He grappled great. He had everything. There wasn't one big apparent flaw in his game, and Johnny Hendricks was obviously on steroids, so obviously, he can be outstruck by him. But, I don't think that makes a difference in saying that he's one of the best. I think his wrestling is one of the best there's ever been, and his striking is definitely also one of the best. So where else are you going to put him than perfection, you know? So that's just an obvious placement. Then another obvious placement is Ilia Topuria at perfection, because come on, man, he submitted Bryce Mitchell. He TKO'd, he ground and pounded. What's the guy's name? The guy that does the rolls, you know, that Ryan Hall, I think that's the name. You know, he KO'd Max Holloway. He KO'd Volkanovski. He out wrestled Josh Emmett. He's just perfect. Like, he's basically the perfect fighter in my eyes. He has every aspect of the game down to a T. And he's one of the best fighters we've ever seen. And I think he's the best fighter we've ever seen, period. That's still unproven, though. I think if he beats Islam Makhachev, he's the best fighter ever. There's no debate. But right now, I think he sits right there at perfection still because of what he's shown. It's just insane. His achievements are glorious, you know. So he belongs there. Then I'm going to put Volkanovski at the perfection tier as well. Out-wrestled Makhachev at points. Outstruck Max Holloway. People have this... I don't know what's fucking wrong with people. I don't know what's gotten into people. After the Ilia Topuria loss, everyone's pretending like Volkanovski is some fucking aura merchant, when I just don't get it, man. Like, he's still insanely skilled, and his chin is good. His chin is good. I don't care what you say. I don't care that he got knocked out twice. His chin is insane. His power is good. It's not the best, but it's good. And, you know, he does everything almost perfectly. So I'm going to put him at perfect, of course. And then for the last fighter, we have Pantoja. And I'm also going to put him at perfection. Great BJJ. Insane chin. Good power. And great striking. I don't know what else I have to say for this guy. You've seen him fight Kai Asakura. You've seen him fight Roy Val. You've seen him fight fucking every flyweight ever. And he should get a chance to fight Merab. It's not going to happen because they hate Pantoja, because he's a flyweight. But it should happen. And he's one of the best fighters to ever do it. And that's my list. Of course, this isn't like a list of the best fighters ever. But this is like, you know, it's just clickbait title. But it's like the most complete, like, you know, I explained it in the beginning, basically. But, you know, like and subscribe. Let me know what fighters you think belong in this list. And goodbye.